this week we'll be looking at the myth of education and empowerment. And this might be my favorite one that we talk about. I just think it's a very interesting topic and one that each of you guys can relate to. As I mentioned in the prompt or the post that I put on day 8, that all of us have some type of education. To be in college, you obviously have a high school diploma, so you're farther along than some people in our country, but it gives you the right to have an opinion on education, and it gives you the right to have a theory and an idea on what you think makes for a good education. We're going to primarily talk the first couple days about a public education and what that looks like. I know not all of you may have attended a public school, but we all should probably have some type of knowledge of a public education here in our country. To start with, let's look a little bit about what is this myth of education and empowerment, and ultimately what is the American dream. When our forefathers founded this nation, a lot of it was based on this idea of the American dream, which centers around the chance to learn. Everyone has the same chance to learn and to grow and to be educated, to better oneself. These are all pieces of the American dream, to gain skills that pay off in upward mobility. Upward mobility means, if you're currently in a low class, moving to the middle class. If you're currently in a middle class, moving to the upper class. Or it may be the upward mobility of just what your income level is. If your dad was a factory worker, maybe you're going to be a white-collar person in that factory, or maybe you're going to be the president of that factory someday. That is what upward mobility is. And the American dream, by achieving that American dream, it all centers around, in our country, education, or that's the belief it centers around, is education. It is the engine that drives this idea that we have of the American dream. It tells us that this American dream can work for everyone. I'm sure many of you guys have heard, maybe as a kid growing up, your parents said, you can be anything you want to be, or you can do whatever you want to do, which is that idea of the American dream. It's something we in some ways take for granted here, that other countries don't have that. They don't have the benefit of a, quote, American dream, where they can be anything and do anything. It reassures us that we are created equally and that the path to achievement lies through individual effort and hard work, not blind luck or birth. And this is a variation from other countries and from other nations, in that it may not... The American dream is the idea that it does not matter where you are born in society and what type of person you are born to, that hard work is what achieves it, and getting a good education is the solid basis of that. And I think that this is something that we all want to believe in and we all can believe in. Sadly, this myth may not be true, and I think that this week will challenge a lot of you guys onto whether or not you really believe that is true, that education can really do that, that we all do have the same chance at this American dream. So just a little bit on where we're coming from. We landed on Plymouth Rock to today. So for hundreds of years, educators and community members have debated over the best way that the government should educate our citizens. Okay, so this debate about education that we have at every political debate, every time a new president is elected, education is always a huge part of it. And this is not new. This has been going on for hundreds of years. And 3 central questions kind of underlie this debate. What is the purpose of public education? What is the general purpose? Who should be receiving these services? And how does the government ensure these education services are what they should be? We have done that in a variety of ways, from things like No Child Left Behind, which is a fairly frequent one, the Common Core, which is a hot topic right now. These are all ways our government is trying to ensure this quality education. So in various forms, these 3 questions, the purpose of education, public education, who receives them, and how does the government ensure it, is really the questions that lay beneath all the educational changes and reform measures in American history, everything we've had as far as education and reform in the past. Really brief history of education in America. I'm not going to go through every point. I just want to kind of give you an overview. The Puritans, when they founded our country, education to them was a source of order and control and discipline. It also involved a lot of spiritual matters. It was to teach children the spiritual elements that they needed to believe. Teachers were viewed as servants. There's a lot of history as far as how we treated our teachers back then. Then the Revolutionary War happened. We did have some improvements, and the education also sparked a spirit of nationalism. It was where that American dream sort of started to really come to fruition. One of the goals of our education then was to create kind of, in a sense, little soldiers, uniformly loyal, patriotic Americans. And we were very big on kind of letting everyone believe in America through our education. Jefferson and Washington were more interested in benefiting the state rather than individual students. So like I said, they were trying to create little soldiers, little American soldiers, that believed and could really benefit the overall state of our country. Continue to move along in society, the industrialization and immigration era. Many saw school as that first line of defense against the threat of non-native peoples, undermining the cultural identity of the U.S. So we were trying to self-preserve our country, self-preserve our culture through our education. The other thing that established was this different tracks emerged. So if a student appeared to be good at math, then they were put in this track. If they appeared to be more of a blue-collar worker, they were maybe put in a different track. There was a big emphasis on habits and good discipline throughout school. So punctuality, regularity, attendance, attention, and silence were a big deal. They were kind of doing conformity and less individuality. Horace Mann is a big name in education. We have lots of schools named after him. His idea was to expand the educational opportunity to all Americans. He was kind of the one who tried to equalize the education and the condition of education for all men. And this continued with John Dewey at the turn of the century. He was opposed to this idea of tracks. He felt like we were putting kids into certain areas where maybe they didn't want to be or were not the best suited for them. And he was big on us producing a little bit more of the liberal arts idea of a thinking citizen rather than just an obedient worker. Most of our current myths about education echo this optimism of Mann and Dewey, okay? So we, the things that we're trying to break are these things from previous times than them. The 20th century brought some new things, a vastly improved education, although some of us may not think so now. But in 1900, children sometimes left school when they were only 12 to help work on their land, the farm, crops, things like that. We moved it in 1918. They were required to stay till 14 years old. In 1947, we moved it to 15, and in 1972, it was raised to 16. In the 60s and early 70s, most schools became comprehensive, which means they were comprehensive education. All different types of subjects were taught. We had some changes as far as corporal punishment was concerned. And then in the 60s, there was a huge expansion of higher education, and the goal being more of a university education at the end. This we're going to discuss later in the week as far as our higher education is concerned. So I have a couple of little quiz questions just to kind of change it up and give you guys something fun to do. So have a scrap paper out, and we're going to kind of see where you go, how you do on these questions. Since 1900, public schools in America have produced how many presidents? A, B, C, or D? How many adults in the U.S. are living with low literacy skills? And you can pause the video at any time to answer the questions. How many children drop out of school every day? And where does the United States rank among 30 developed countries in math? Where does the U.S. rank among 30 developed countries in science? College graduates out-earn high school graduates by how much in their lifetime? Approximately how many students leave high school every year without a diploma? At the end of 2009, the unemployment rate was almost 10%. Which industry could not find enough qualified people to fill its job openings? Last, A dropout factory is a term for a school in which 40% of students quit between 9th and 12th grades. How many of these schools exist in America? Okay, so like I said, you can pause at any time and just kind of scratch these down. Let's go back over the answers. Since 1900, public schools have produced how many presidents? The answer is A. 10 U.S. presidents have come from public schools since 1900. So when you think about it, it's not a whole lot that have come from a public school in the last 100 years. How many adults in the U.S. are living with low literacy skills? The answer to that is C. 32 million live with low literacy skills, and this is 1 in 7 adults cannot read the side effects on like a pill bottle, a medical pill bottle. That's how low the literacy skills are. Children dropping out of school every day. The answer is D. There are 7,000 children every day dropping out of school. The answer to 4, where does the U.S. rank among math? The answer is D. We are 25th out of 30 developed countries in math. In science, we are 21st out of 30 countries in science. So you might have thought America was really at the top of their game, but maybe not so much. Number 6, college graduates out-earning high school. They out-earn them by 73%. So a really high percentage, you're going to make more money if you have a college degree. How many students leave high school every year without a diploma? D. 1.2 million leave high school without a diploma. Number 8, at the end of 2009, what industry could not find enough qualified people to fill its jobs? A. Information technology. So any of you guys interested in computers should keep going that way. And dropout factory is a term for schools with 40% of students quitting. And there are 2,000 of those in our country today. This is a little infographic. I'm not sure if you can see it all, but this just kind of gives a summary of what some of those things that we talked about as far as what our rankings are and how we stand up to the education in our country. We're going to discuss, I think on Thursday we're going to watch a documentary that I think you guys will all really like as far as the education in our country. But I also I have several articles I want you to read in the text. The first one being the Michael Moore article called Idiot Nation. It's real easy to read, but it's very informative. Remember, it's very slanted. Most of these are argumentative essays, and so it does have an argument, definitely. He has a very argumentative tone in it. So read it with that, with your critical thinking lens on. And then also there's one called Against School that talks about maybe we shouldn't even be attending school. And the other 2 articles deal a little bit more with the college education. So you can go ahead and read those now, but we'll also discuss those later on in the week.